I thought I was just another foster kid, grateful for a home. Until she whispered, "Don't ruin my legacy with your truth." And then I found a photo of me, with a name I've never heard before. The first time my mother told me I should be grateful, she didn't leave me on the sidewalk like a stray. I was 8. And I believed her. For most of my life, I thought I was lucky. That's what everyone told me. "You're so lucky your foster mom adopted you? She's such a kind woman. She saved you." But nobody saw what happened behind closed doors. Nobody saw how being saved came with fine print. And I didn't dare complain. Because when someone rescues you, you're supposed to shut up and say thank you. I'm Riley. I'm 18 now. But this story starts when I was 7. My birth mom died in a fire. Accidental, they said. No other family came forward. I remember social workers, strangers, cold hallways. Then came Cynthia. Everyone adored her. She was polished, calm, always smiling. The news even did a little piece on her for adopting an orphan. "Single woman with a heart of gold gives little girl a forever home." That's how they phrased it. And at first it felt true. She had 4 biological kids already. 3 boys and a girl, older than me by a few years. I was excited. A big family. A new chance. But I didn't realize that I was entering a system where I was the outsider by design. At school, I had to work harder to keep up. English wasn't my strongest subject at first, and my grades weren't perfect. Cynthia would look over my report card with a forced smile and say, "Well, at least we know which of the kids didn't come from my genes." And everyone would laugh. It stung. But I told myself maybe I was lucky to be here. So I tried harder. I made honor roll by 5th grade. I cleaned the kitchen without being asked. I learned to cook, helped my younger cousins with homework, even got perfect attendance for 3 straight years. But no matter what I did, it was never enough. I remember once baking cookies from scratch and setting them out for the family. My older brother spilled juice on the floor right after. Cynthia walked in, saw the mess, and snapped at me, "Why can't you do anything right?" I was 13. By high school, I stopped trying to be noticed. I aimed to disappear. I studied late at the public library because I didn't want to be home. I applied to every scholarship I could find. Not just because I wanted to escape, but because I had to. Cynthia always made it clear she wouldn't be paying a cent toward college. "You already cost enough," she'd say. But everything changed when I got the letter. It was a full scholarship. Tuition, housing, even airfare, for a 2-year arts program in Florence, Italy. The program was competitive. Only 3 students in the entire state got selected, and I was one of them. For the first time in my life, I felt seen, validated. Like maybe, just maybe, all the years of effort hadn't been for nothing. I ran home with the envelope still in my hand, burst into the kitchen, and said, "Cynthia, I got it. The Italy program, I got the scholarship." She stared at me, blinked once. Then her face slowly crumpled. And to my absolute confusion, she started crying. Real tears, but not happy ones. "I can't believe you'd do this to me," she said, her voice trembling. "After everything I've done for you, you're just going to run away like everyone else?" I stood there, frozen. "Run away? It's 2 years. It's betrayal," she snapped. "What will people think when they hear my adopted daughter couldn't wait to get away? Do you even care how that reflects on this family?" I was stunned. I had expected pride, or at least neutrality. Not this. My siblings entered the kitchen one by one. Cynthia waved the scholarship letter in the air like it was some kind of insult. "She's leaving us," she said to them. "She's abandoning the family." They didn't say anything, just stared at me like I had done something unforgivable. The next morning, I woke up to find my school bag missing. I searched everywhere. My notes, my transcripts, gone. Cynthia stood by the door, purse in hand. "I locked them up," she said calmly. "You're not going anywhere until you fix your attitude." That was the first time I truly realized. I wasn't a daughter. I was a project, a showcase, a long-term investment in public image. I knew I needed help. So I called the only adult I ever trusted, my old art teacher, Ms. Mariana. She'd stayed in touch after I graduated from her class in 9th grade. She always said she saw something in me, that I had more fire than I realized. I told her everything, crying on a bench outside the local gas station because it was the only place I could walk to without being seen. She didn't hesitate. "Come stay with me," she said. "We'll figure this out together." And we tried. We contacted the scholarship board, explained the situation. They said they were reviewing a duplicate submission under my name and that the content appeared plagiarized. I was confused. I had only submitted one. Mariana narrowed her eyes. Do you remember logging in from anywhere other than school or home? No, I said. Why? She shook her head. Because the second application came from your home IP address, but the essay content was lifted from a blog post written in 2016. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. It meant someone had logged in under my account and submitted a second, plagiarized application just before the deadline to sabotage me. Someone with access to the Wi-Fi. Someone who knew all my passwords. Someone inside the house. I stared at the phone in Mariana's hand as she scrolled through digital logs from the scholarship portal. And then she stopped. Looked at me. You're not going to like this, she whispered. She turned the phone toward me and showed me a recent login from 2 nights ago. The device name read, iPad, Eliza. Eliza, my sister. The one I used to call my best friend. Eliza, my sister. The only one I thought truly saw me. I stared at her device name glowing on Mariana's screen and felt my whole body go numb. It didn't make sense. Eliza had been my only ally in that house. She was the one who slipped notes under my door when Cynthia was in one of her moods. The one who once said, "You're not like us, and that's why I admire you." So why her? She must have used your login from your saved drafts, Mariana said gently. Do you think she knew your password? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Everyone in that house knew my passwords. Cynthia made me write them down in a kitchen drawer, said it was for emergencies. Mariana didn't speak. She just sat down next to me, her silence heavier than any comfort. That night, I didn't sleep. I kept replaying every conversation I ever had with Eliza. Every time she said she was proud of me. Every time she asked, "Are you sure you submitted it already? Or did you back it up?" I thought she was being supportive. Now I realize she was probably checking her timeline. By morning, the scholarship committee emailed me with a formal notice. They were freezing my acceptance pending an investigation into the authenticity of both applications. I was being treated like a liar, a cheat, by the one institution that had finally seen me for who I was. Cynthia must have known. I imagined her sipping tea in that pristine kitchen, satisfied that I wasn't going anywhere. But Eliza? That hurt in a different way. I didn't have proof she submitted the fake application, just a device log. It wouldn't hold in any formal complaint. Mariana tried to calm me down, said we'd collect more evidence, but I felt like the walls were closing in. Everyone I loved had a limit. My birth mother had been taken from me. Cynthia never saw me as hers. And Eliza? She chose Cynthia's approval over me. 2 days later, I got a text. Can we talk? Alone. I nearly deleted it, but Mariana convinced me to go. If there's a chance she'll confess or clarify something, we need to hear it. We met in the back corner of a diner downtown. Eliza came in wearing oversized sunglasses like she was hiding from the world. I didn't say anything, just sat with my arms crossed, waiting. She ordered tea, as if we were catching up. Then she looked at me and whispered, "I didn't mean to hurt you." "Then why did you?" I asked. She sighed. "It wasn't supposed to go that far. I wanted to apply too." That stopped me cold. "What?" "I wanted to go to Italy," she said. "I read about the program in your room. You left the packet out. It sounded amazing, but I knew I couldn't compete with your application. So I copied your idea, used the draft on your laptop, and just changed a few things." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You submitted my work under my name," I said, my voice shaking. "And didn't think I'd find out?" "I didn't think yours would get accepted," she whispered, and I thought, if I got it instead, Cynthia would finally see me. There it was, the truth. We were both chasing love from the same black hole. Eliza wasn't the golden child, not like the others. Cynthia always said she was too soft, too sensitive. She pushed Eliza harder in different ways, expected her to be the quiet, polished one. So she tried to become that, and I, unwittingly, was her competition. "You could have told me," I said. "I would have helped you apply. I would have written a letter of recommendation myself." "I know," she said. "That's what makes it worse." I stared at her, tears hot in my eyes. "You were the only one I trusted." She cried too, but it didn't change anything. "I'll go to the scholarship board," she said. "I'll tell them I did it, that it was me." But it was too late. The damage was done. The trust was broken. And the twist? Later that evening, Mariana got a call from someone unexpected, Eliza's former therapist. She'd heard from Eliza's school that something had happened between us, and she felt she needed to warn someone. Apparently, this wasn't the first time Eliza had done something like this. In 10th grade, she had submitted a personal essay for a contest that wasn't hers. It belonged to a classmate. When she won, the classmate went to the school board, but Eliza convinced them the other girl was lying. No formal punishment was ever issued. Cynthia covered the entire thing up. When I heard that, I froze. Eliza hadn't made a one-time mistake. She had a pattern. A quiet one. A rehearsed one. She mimics people she admires, the therapist explained. But when she feels she can't become them, she tries to erase them instead. It's rooted in a deep identity crisis that stems from emotional neglect. Mariana looked at me. I think you need to let her go, Riley. And I did. The next morning, I sent a statement to the scholarship board explaining everything. I attached Mariana's logs, my original essays, timestamps, and every email I had proving I never submitted a second application. I didn't mention Eliza by name. She'd already buried herself. But just as I was starting to feel the tiniest sense of control, something else happened. Mariana opened her mailbox and found an envelope. No return address. Inside was a printed photo of me sitting with her at the diner, taken through the window from across the street. Scrawled on the back were 5 words in messy handwriting. Stop digging. Or she disappears. I stared at the back of the photo for what felt like forever. Stop digging. Or she disappears. 5 words. Sloppy handwriting. No return address. But the message couldn't have been clearer. I sat frozen in Mariana's kitchen, holding the photo of us at the diner, the exact moment I was confronting Eliza. The picture had been taken through a window, probably from across the street. Whoever took it knew exactly what they were doing. I turned to Mariana, my throat dry. Is this some kind of joke? She took the photo from my shaking hands. Her face hardened as she flipped it over. No, Riley. This is a threat. We sat in silence for a moment. Then she grabbed her phone. We need to report this. Wait, I said. What if it's not real? What if someone's just trying to mess with me? Mariana looked me dead in the eye. That is messing with you. And it's not a prank. Someone's watching you. They're trying to intimidate you into silence. I didn't know what scared me more. The fact that someone had followed us. Or the thought that maybe Eliza wasn't the only one involved. Because here's the thing. Eliza had always been under pressure. Cynthia expected perfection from all her biological kids, but Eliza got the worst of it. Maybe this wasn't just about the scholarship. Maybe Cynthia found out what Eliza did, and now she was trying to keep it buried no matter the cost. We filed a report that afternoon. The officer didn't seem overly concerned, said it could be an empty threat, advised us to stay vigilant, and told Mariana to install a camera out front. But I could tell he didn't take it seriously. I did. That night, I barely slept. Every time a car drove by, I jumped. Every creak of the floorboards made me flinch. My world, which had already felt like it was collapsing, now felt dangerous. The next day, Mariana received an email from the scholarship committee. They'd reviewed the logs. My original application was intact, time-stamped, and submitted well before the fake one. They believed me. But they weren't reinstating the offer. Not yet. They claimed the public attention around the situation raised concerns about my emotional stability, that I might not be in the right mental state for a program abroad. I was stunned. I didn't ask for attention, I said aloud, reading the email again. I didn't create this drama. Mariana sighed. They don't care. They just want to protect their image. I slammed my laptop shut. So that's it? I lose everything because someone else sabotaged me? Because I fought back? Not everything, she said. But this round, maybe. I walked out of the house and didn't stop moving. I don't know how far I walked. But I ended up at the park across town, the same one Cynthia used to take all of us to when we were younger. I sat down on the bench near the old swing set and tried not to cry. I'd spent my whole life trying to be the safe one, the quiet one, the good one. I followed the rules. I studied hard. I never talked back. I thought that if I just kept my head down and worked harder than everyone else, I'd earn a real place in that family, in this world. But now I knew better. None of that had protected me. I was still the outsider, still disposable, still the girl who got in because of her trauma, and then got pushed out the moment that trauma became inconvenient. And as if the universe wasn't done with me yet, my phone buzzed. Blocked number. One message. Thought you'd be smarter than this. Stay in your lane. That was the moment something inside me broke. I stood up from the bench, shaking with rage. I had done nothing wrong, and yet I was the one being punished. Again. Silenced. Threatened. Erased. Not this time. I marched home. Told Mariana we needed to dig deeper. She was already ahead of me. There's something you need to see, she said, pulling up her laptop. She had accessed an archived website, one that used to belong to a private organization Cynthia volunteered with years ago. A mentorship group for at-risk youth. The site was basic, but still had its photo gallery up. And there, in one of the old albums, was a picture. A younger version of me, from when I was 9. Smiling in a group photo, standing beside Cynthia, who had her hand placed just behind my shoulder. But the caption underneath made my blood run cold. Cynthia M., with her foster success story. Elise? Elise? My name is Riley. Why would she use a different name? I asked, staring at the screen. Mariana didn't answer. She just clicked another link. Another photo, another caption. In each one, Cynthia had called me by a different name. Sophie, Maya, Elise, Charlotte. All different years, all different grant applications. All the same girl. Me. She hadn't adopted me out of love. She'd used me, over and over again. Each name, each project, was a chance to secure donations, recognition, community awards. I wasn't her daughter. I was her funding strategy. I sat down, my knees buckling. I didn't cry. Not at first. Because when betrayal is that deep, it doesn't feel like sadness. It feels like emptiness. Like your own identity was never yours to begin with. You know, I've read stories like this on Reddit before. About kids who found out they were just a tool, a symbol, a narrative someone else needed to look good. But I never thought I'd be one of them. And if you're reading this, if you've ever been made to feel like your pain had to be useful to be valid, I see you. I know what it's like to be turned into a story that isn't yours. You're not alone in this. And I hope, maybe one day, we can all write our own endings. The day I found out Cynthia had used my face, my story, and my entire existence under different names for years, something in me snapped. Not in a dramatic, throw the lamp across the room kind of way. It was quieter than that, like a string pulled too tight for too long, finally snapping without sound. For the first time in my life, I stopped feeling scared, and I started feeling done. I looked at Mariana, whose face mirrored the horror I was trying to suppress, and said, "Let's burn the whole thing down." She didn't flinch. Instead, she turned her laptop toward me and opened a blank folder. We built a case, not out of rage, but truth. We started with what we had: the scholarship sabotage, the email logs, the fake application, the handwritten threat, the photo taken through the diner window. And now, Cynthia's use of my image under false names for years to secure public funding and nonprofit grants. Mariana was meticulous. She reached out to a friend of hers, a journalist who specialized in uncovering charity fraud. I was hesitant at first, but when I saw the spreadsheet they'd begun compiling, listing every event, every false caption, every dollar raised in the name of Maya, Elise, Charlotte, I realized this wasn't just personal. It was criminal. I wasn't just going to expose Cynthia. I was going to make sure no one else got pulled into her perfect little family narrative again. 2 days later, I walked into Cynthia's house. Not to beg, not to apologize, but to take back what was mine. Eliza was home. I knew because her car was in the driveway. I walked in like I had a right to, because legally I still did. My name was on the adoption papers, even if my face had been scrubbed from every family photo in the hallway. I found her in the kitchen, scrolling on her phone, pale and exhausted like she hadn't slept. When she saw me, she froze. "Riley," she whispered. "What are you—" "You lied," I said, voice steady. "Not just about the scholarship, about everything." She didn't deny it. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "I was scared." "No," I replied. "You were cruel. And now I need the truth." I pulled out my phone, hit record, sat it on the kitchen counter. "Eliza," I asked, "did Mom ever ask you to log into my accounts?" Her eyes flickered toward the hallway. "Eliza," I repeated. A long pause. Then, "Yes." "Did she help you draft the fake essay?" "Yes." "Did she know it was plagiarism?" Another pause. Then a whispered, "She told me to make it bad, so it would override yours." That was enough. I stopped the recording, picked up my phone, and left without another word. Eliza didn't follow. She knew what she'd just done. The next morning, Mariana handed me a flash drive. "We're going to the board," she said. "School, media, and court, in that order." I didn't even ask what was on it. I trusted her. We met with a representative from the scholarship committee first. Mariana played the audio. Then she showed them the altered application metadata, the emails, the device logs, all cross-referenced and authenticated. Their faces turned to stone. "We'll be in touch," they said, immediately. I didn't need them to promise anything. I just wanted them to know. Then came the media. Mariana's journalist friend had gathered her own intel. Interviews with 2 other kids previously fostered by Cynthia, both of whom reported similar treatment. One even mentioned that Cynthia kept a folder of pre-written sob stories she'd tweak depending on the child's background. It wasn't just me. I had just been the longest-running show. By the end of the week, the article dropped. Front page. Beneath the smile, how a beloved foster mother built a brand on false narratives and stolen stories. I won't lie. Seeing my face next to that headline made my stomach flip. But it also made me feel real, like my story couldn't be edited anymore. The fallout was instant. Local news picked it up. The nonprofit Cynthia once volunteered for issued a statement distancing themselves and launched an internal audit. Donations to her family foundation were frozen. School officials reached out to clarify my standing and requested a meeting. But the twist, the real twist, came 3 days later when we got a knock at the door. Mariana opened it. A woman stood there, older, nervous, holding a thick envelope in her hand. "I'm sorry to show up like this," she said, "but I think I know who you are." She looked at me. "You're Riley, or that's what she called you." I nodded slowly. The woman stepped inside, hands trembling. "I'm Sarah," she said. "My daughter was fostered by Cynthia before you. Her name was Isabel, but I think Cynthia called her something else when she did the interviews. I found a picture of you in one of those press clippings and I thought you might be able to help me find my daughter." I blinked. "I'm not your daughter," I said. She nodded. "I know. But maybe neither was she." She opened the envelope. Inside were 3 photos. One of me, one of another girl. Same dark hair, same age range, standing beside Cynthia in the same living room I used to sit in. And one of them together, clearly photoshopped. Same couch, different kids, same story, different name. That was the moment everything changed. This wasn't just revenge. This was rescue. This woman hadn't come for closure. She came for a missing child. And Cynthia? She hadn't just rewritten my story. She had rewritten dozens. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I never fought back. If I had just accepted the silence, the erasure, the version of me they wanted to preserve. But then I remember what it felt like. Finding my name twisted into someone else's idea of inspiration. And I think about how many more of us are out there. If you've ever had someone rewrite your life to suit their story, you're not alone. I see you. And I believe every part of your truth that someone else tried to bury. When Sarah showed me that photoshopped image, I felt everything inside me stop. It wasn't just the realization that Cynthia had lied. It was the dawning horror that she may have erased other children the same way she tried to erase me. We stayed up that night at Mariana's kitchen table, the 3 of us, Sarah, Mariana, and me, piecing together timelines, comparing photos, captions, dates. Sarah remembered names, foster placements, schools Isabel had briefly attended. One by one, we matched them to the identities Cynthia had used in public records and charity campaigns. Isabel had been listed as Sophie in a fundraising gala, as Leah in a local newspaper interview, and in one report, she'd vanished completely. No forwarding school, no public records, just gone. We took everything to Mariana's journalist contact. She listened carefully, then said 4 words that made my heart race. "You need the police." The investigation moved faster than I expected. Cynthia was a pillar of the community. But that made it worse. She'd had access. She knew how to manage optics, and she'd built a support network of people too afraid, or too complicit, to ask questions. But what she hadn't counted on? The stories. Once the article about me went viral, other former foster kids started coming forward. One girl emailed us, saying she had always wondered why she disappeared from Cynthia's Facebook timeline the moment she turned 14. A boy sent in screenshots of messages where Cynthia promised to help him get back on track, but then shipped him to a different home 2 towns over when he started asking about his real mom. The patterns were chilling. Erasure, replacement, rebranding. Every child was a narrative asset, a before and after photo in a speech, a name in a grant proposal. And when they stopped serving her storyline, she deleted them. The state opened an inquiry into every child placed with Cynthia over the past 20 years. Some records didn't match. Others were missing entirely. But one stood out. Isabel. According to the last official foster log, she was returned to state custody at age 12. But there was no intake record. No new placement. No one had seen her since. Sarah filed a missing persons report. A cold case detective was assigned. And Mariana and I gave everything we had. Emails, event records, footage, witness lists. I couldn't eat for days. The weight of it, knowing this wasn't just about a scholarship or a stolen name anymore, was almost unbearable. But the part that broke me was when I realized Cynthia never expected to get caught because she believed none of us would ever be believed. When the arrest happened, I wasn't even there. Cynthia was taken into custody on charges of fraud, falsification of documents, and obstruction during a child welfare investigation. More charges were pending based on the outcome of the missing persons case. They found boxes in her garage, full of old photos, award certificates, and sealed folders with alternate names taped on the front. She'd kept everything, because somewhere inside she thought she was building a legacy. She called it her life's work, but she built it on forgotten children. In the weeks that followed, the scholarship committee reinstated my offer, this time with a personal apology. But I didn't smile when I read the email, because justice doesn't feel like joy. It feels like oxygen after drowning. I accepted the scholarship, yes, but I also submitted a written statement asking them to revise their vetting process, to consider how many kids might never fight their way back like I did. Mariana helped me move into a small apartment close to her place. Sarah visits every few weeks with old photos of Isabel, hoping that maybe someone, somewhere, will recognize her. Eliza hasn't reached out again. I think part of her still believes she was protecting something worth saving, but I don't. I'm not angry anymore. I'm just clear. Clear that love is not performance. Clear that family is not control. Clear that some people will call their abuse sacrifice to make it easier to swallow. But most of all, I'm clear that I never have to earn my existence again. Yesterday, I stood in front of the mirror holding the only photo of me as a child that Cynthia never got her hands on. No filters, no captions, no lies. Just me. And I whispered out loud, "You're real. You survived. And you're allowed to take up space." Because the scariest part wasn't being erased. It was realizing how easily the world let her do it. No one has the right to own your story but you. And if someone once made you feel like you were a burden, maybe it's because you were the biggest threat to their illusion. If you've ever gone through something like this, being controlled, redefined, or turned into someone you're not, feel free to share in the comments. Not for pity, but to be seen. And if stories like this resonate with you, you know what to do. I'll be here, listening.